this one is going to be more of like the major scale shapes for the first pattern. So we'll do it in a few different keys for examples, but also talking a little bit more about what is a major scale. So really for this, you just have there's 8 notes, but there's 7 different ones. So it's really just thinking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that 8th note is the same note as your first one. It's just an octave up. So E note being here. If you go to your 12th fret, that's the same note. They're both E's, except one's an octave up. And it's the same if you do this. So if I play my 5th fret, my E string, and then my 7th fret of my D string, those are all octaves. One note is just higher than the other. And yeah. So, I'm going to try this out. A little whiteboard magic. This is 8 notes. Pretty straightforward. The only thing besides that is figuring out which notes that, like, what's the 1 note, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which are those notes. So for that, you're going to need to know, I know it's a scary word, but it's the formula. So for that, the major scale formula is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Sometimes people refer to, instead of tones or semitones, they do whole steps or half steps. So for this, it's really just T is tone, S is semitone. But if you ever heard people talk about it with whole steps and half steps, a tone is the same thing as a whole step, and a semitone is the same thing as a half step. Which on a guitar, a tone is a distance of 2 frets, and a semitone is a distance of 1 fret. So we got a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. We'll fight that wicked glare, but yeah. So in between each of these numbers, there's between the 1 and the 2, there's a tone. Between the 2 and the 3, there's a tone. Between the 3 and the 4, there's a semitone, and so on like that. So whatever the first note is to play the major scale, you just move up like 2 frets or 1 fret, tones or semitones. So for this one, we'll start off with our A. So we got that A note. That's our first note in this scale. So then our second note, if we wanted to figure out what that was, we would just follow that scale formula. So we're going to go up a tone from A, which brings us to our B note. And then we have another tone, which is going to bring us to our C sharp. So that's the first note, the 1, 2, 3. So we go between these, there's a tone, tone. And the next note is a semitone up from this C sharp. So our next note would be a D note, but instead of playing it all on one string to get across the strings, that's our D note, 5th fret of your A string. And you go tone, tone, that formula through. We've got tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, and then this is where we're going to go to the next string instead of going. Instead of doing it like that, going up on that A string, we're going to go to our 6th fret of the D string. And then a semitone takes us back to our root. So that right there is your major scale, but we're going to follow through the rest of the strings with this instead of just doing those 3 strings. So we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And then we just repeat all of those notes again. So we're back at our A, then we go to our B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Then we got B, C sharp, D. So with frets, that's 7, 5, 7, 9. Then we go to the A string, 5, 7, 9. And then the D string, we've got 6, 7, 9. G, 6, 7, 9. On the B, 7, 9, 10. And then on the E, 7, 9, 10. Alrighty, so that's the shape, and we can move that around, but again, it's just good to know the notes. If you memorize the shape and you can move it around, that's cool, but it's also good to know your notes, just for the sake of that situation where somebody calls out, oh, we're going to do it in the key of whatever. And if you know those shapes, but you don't know your notes, then you're kind of playing some guesswork. If your ear's really good, you'll figure it out quick, but it's a little bit quicker to not have to guess if you just know where your notes are. So then I can write that next one out before we play it on the guitar. So for this example, we'll do C major. So if you're starting on your C, and that's your 1 note, got C. A tone up from C is your, oh yeah, nice, looking good with the glare. So we go tone up from C, that brings us to a D. A tone up from D brings us to an E. This is all just following that major scale formula. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So we're on our E, which is our 3rd. Our 4th is a semitone up from E, so it's going to be our F. And then tone up from F brings us to a G. Tone up from G brings us to an A. And a tone up from A brings us to a B. And then a semitone from B brings us back to our C. And that is like that. It looks a little funky, but what would be great is if you pause and then if you wrote that out, that'll help retain the information. And whenever, if you do write this out, another great thing to do is always circle the root notes. So you have those are your root notes. The C, that's the important one. So now, translating that to guitar, you're going to find your C note on your E string, which is going to be up on your 8th fret. So, there you go. We got that C. So now, we're going to go, still following that major scale formula, the tones and semitones. So C to D, tone up to E, then we're going to the next string. We have our F, up to G, up to A. Next string, we have our B, and we're back to our C. And then just like before, we just continue that all the way up. So we're on the C, 10th fret of the D string. We go to the 12th fret, and that's our D note again. And then we're going to go to the next string. So those frets are going to be 9, 10, 12. And those notes are going to be E, F, G. And then we go to the next string, the B string. We're going to do 10, 12, 13. So it's A, B, C. And it's the same frets on the E string. 10, 12, 13. And that's D, E, F for those notes. So that's pattern 1 in C. Quick playthrough of the pattern A again. So we're starting on the 5th fret with a root note A. And yeah, practice moving that around. So play it F, E, G, and then if you want to do like F sharp, sharps or flats, throw those in there. Move it around, get comfortable with that shape. And yeah, I think that'll be enough for now, keeping you busy. But yeah, getting familiar with just hearing those things where it's like scale formulas, tones, semitones, knowing that a tone is a distance of 2 frets on your guitar, semitone is a distance of 1 fret. So A to B, it's 5 to 7, 2 frets. If I was going to go E to F, that's a distance of 1 fret. And yeah, getting familiar with all that. Yeah, should keep you busy. Have some fun with that.